everybody, welcome back to Friends for Life's Midweek Mini.
Yellow.
Hope you're having a great Wednesday afternoon. We got some articles here, again, from, you guessed it, our good friends over at Disabilities Scoop.
Man, I love them.
That's a great website. It really is. We get a lot of good info here and a lot of good talking points. So this article is stating that the nation's pediatricians are told to look out for abuse of kids with disabilities. And this is perfect timing because we just recorded a medical Monday. I cannot talk today. We recorded a medical. I say that every Wednesday. We recorded a episode of Medical Monday with Dr. Craig Escuday, which I'll throw a link up to this. Hopefully, I can get him out around the same time. But he gave a great talk about this same exact issue as a doctor who deals specifically with people with disabilities, about keeping an eye out for abuse and sexual abuse or any kind of abuse for kids or adults or anybody with a disability, because sometimes they can't talk about it or do it. There's certain signs you can look for. So this article, great timing in that coming out. So it's stating here, for the first time in more than a decade, pediatricians are getting new guidance on how to identify and address maltreatment of children with disabilities. In a clinical report out this week, the American Academy of Pediatrics said that kids with disabilities are at least 3 times more likely than other children to experience abuse and neglect. And cases of such mistreatment are likely underreported, since many of these kids have communication difficulties and are unable to report problems. The guidance notes that several factors could account for this increased risk. Families may be overwhelmed by the complex nature of their child's needs, the added financial demands, or a lack of respite care. Parents may also overestimate their child's capabilities and resort to physical punishment to address what they view as stubbornness, the report indicates. Notably, the pediatrics group, I cannot say that word.
You are stuck on that.
There's different variations of pediatrician, pediatric. Notably, the pediatrics group said that research suggests that children with milder disabilities are actually more at risk of abuse than neglect than those with significant disabilities. Parenting a child with disabilities is often challenging, said Larry D. Desch, a pediatrician at the Chicago Medical School and author of the clinical report. Some children with disabilities respond differently to the usual way we think about discipline and reinforcing good behavior. This can become very frustrating and add to the caregiver's stress. Pediatricians should play an active role in assessing family well-being at each medical visit and discussing appropriate discipline. The pediatrics group said families ought to be given responsible expectations for their child, offered concrete ideas for how to respond to developmental challenges a child is facing, and provide referrals to local resources and agencies for support. In addition, physicians should recognize signs of maltreatment and report concerns to authorities as appropriate. But guidance points out that pediatricians also have a responsibility to document self-injurious behaviors and other factors that may be a key in distinguishing whether or not injuries are likely the result of abuse. And, you know, that's a very tough...
That's a toughie.
Yeah, that's tough because, you know, I feel like sometimes people have this... vision of people with disabilities, and they just have these sweet, loving parents that are just angels. And like, anybody can have a child with a disability. It's not just middle class people that have all the resources that they can do. It's not. It's anyone, anywhere, anytime. And I mean, just like any child can grow up in an abusive household, you know, it's not good, and it's. The way I see this is it's a tougher issue for pediatricians and stuff, because they have so many hats to wear. Not only are they trying to assess your child's health and well-being, but then they have to be, you know, assessing whether they're being abused or not. And I mean, those are tough questions to ask. How you know, I've had emergencies. I've had to take my wife to the hospital, and they pull me aside, or they pull her aside, and they're asking her questions like, "Is he hitting you?" or stuff like that. You know, so I mean, those are not questions that anybody wants to talk about, and that's
And it almost like if you get defensive about it, it makes you look
bad.
It looks real bad. I went through something almost like this with a couple of my children. They were born with Mongolian spots, is what the doctors, and they look like bruises all over the body, and they're really large. And they had to be sure to, like, even at the hospital, to make sure that they circled where they were on a form, and they told the pediatrician right away, and it was documented every time, because I mean, it looks like I would have just been wailing on my infant. But once you add a developmental disability to that and age progression, it's scary. And I mean, it's very, very sad to the point where it's already bad that people are pedophiles and will do something to destroy the innocence of a child, let alone doing it to someone who is already vulnerable to society even more. Like, it's disgusting. But I want to thank the pediatricians and doctors and people out there who are paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of responsibility to put on one person, and they're already, doctors and nurses, even post everything COVID. I mean, they're already doing a lot. I mean, it's a hard field to get into. So yeah, this is definitely important, and we would highly encourage you to check out that episode with Dr. Craig Escuday. He knows a lot more about the specifics than we would, because he's really good with that stuff. So I'll throw a link up to that. And with that being said, I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. I know this is a little heavy here, but we definitely recommend reading the whole article if you can. I'll throw a link below. And if you can, help us out, hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and if you're listening, leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. That really does help us out. It gets us more visible in the eyes of iTunes and stuff. The more ratings and reviews you get, the more they're pushing you onto their platform, which, we would really like to help get more voice out there for disability community.
Yes, we do. Because you guys are doing great by watching and listening to us. We have a whole lot of people actually listen. I mean, I'm very proud. So everyone listening, we will appreciate you, and we just want to keep pushing and growing.
Yep. And with that, we'll see you guys next Wednesday with another Midweek Mini.
Later.